Question 6, find the equation of the line that does two things. First thing, it goes through the point 820. Okay, so I'm going to see a line that's going to go through the point 820, and it has to make a 90-degree angle. That is to say, it's perpendicular to the line 2x plus 3y equals negative 4x plus 12. So perpendicular lines, fun story. Whenever I have lines that are perpendicular to each other, they meet at right angles, but there's a relationship with their slopes. Their slopes, if I multiply their slopes, I'm always going to get an answer of negative 1, which doesn't help me think about it much. But it's true. If you look at a slope of a line and a line that's perpendicular to it, if you multiply their slopes, it always equals the number negative 1. But I think more useful to us is that perpendicular lines have to have slopes that always have to have two properties, right? They have to be opposite in sign. So if one's positive, it becomes negative and vice versa. And they have to be reciprocals. So if it's A over B, it has to become B over A. So two things have to be true for lines to be perpendicular. Their slopes have to be opposite in sign. Positive is negative, negative is positive, and the numerators and denominators flip. And we visualized that when we looked at some rotations on the Cartesian coordinate plane. When I rotate any slope triangle, and I rotate the entire plane 90 degrees, either clockwise or counterclockwise. When we do that, we observed that the rise and the run switch places, and lines with positive slope became lines with negative slopes. So let's take a look at this. First of all, I need to know what this line's slope is, right? Because I'm not going to use that slope because we're not talking parallel, but I need to know what the slope is so I can figure out the opposite reciprocal of it. In order for me to do that, I'm going to rewrite this in slope-intercept form. So I'm thinking I want this to look like y equals mx plus b, because this would be my slope parameter then, right? If I can get it in this form, the coefficient of x will be my slope. So to do that, I'm going to take away 2x from both sides. So if I subtract 2x from the left-hand side, this is going to become 3y equals, and if I subtract 2x from the right-hand side, I've already got a negative 4x. Minus 2 more is going to give me negative 6 times x, and then plus 12. And then the final thing I'm going to do is divide every single term by 3. So 3y divided by 3 is y. Negative 6 times x divided by 3 is negative 2x, and then 12 divided by 3 is plus 4. So I know the slope of the line that I'm given, right? The slope I'm working with is negative 2. And if I want a line to be perpendicular to this line, the slope that I'm going to use for my problem, right? This has a slope of negative 2, but the slope I'm going to use for the line I'm asked to find, I'm going to use slope of positive, and then the reciprocal of 2 would be 1/2. So I'm going to use this slope of 1/2. That's going to be the slope that I use to find the equation of the line. The other thing that I have to do is make sure that this line hits the point 820. So in order to make sure it's going to hit that point, I could use point slope form, but I'm just going to go ahead and use this slope intercept form. And I'm going to write down, from this point, I'm going to grab the y value, I'm going to grab the x value, I'm going to use the slope that I already have, and I'm going to plug everything I know into this. The only thing that I won't know at that point is this one parameter, my y-intercept parameter, but I'll be able to find that. So let's go ahead and plug everything in. So I'm going to write y. Y is the number 20. I read that from my point that I'm trying to hit. Y equals m, positive 1/2, times x, which is 8, and then plus b. Fabulous. 1/2 of 8 is 4, so this is 20 equals 4 plus b. And if I subtract 4 from each side, I get that 16 is exactly what b is. So now I know two things, right? I know my slope parameter that I'm going to use is the number 2, and I also know that my y-intercept parameter is 16. So I can write the equation of the line. I can write my answer, and it's going to look like, let's see, where's the place I can write this answer? There's a box over there, but I'll write it up here. I'm going to go ahead and write y equals m. 1/2 times x, and then don't forget the y-intercept is plus 16. So you can see in my final answer, I went ahead and I plugged in my slope parameter that I found, and I plugged in the y-intercept that I found. Two things to observe: if I plug in 8 to that, it definitely gives me 20 back, so I know it's going through the point 820. 8 goes in, 20 comes out. 820 definitely is on that line. And the other thing that's true is that that line that I wrote down has a slope that is the opposite reciprocal. It is the opposite reciprocal of this thing's slope. So if I was to ask Desmos to graph it, and then I graphed my answer and I measured that angle, but surprise, surprise, they are meeting at a right angle, and you'd also observe, surprise, surprise, it's also hitting this point.